Okay, let's see if it's going here. I always get an error message and then goes through. Did you see that it?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, welcome to Quantum Leap Live, folks. And we're going to do kind of a quick session today because Corey and I got a meeting we got to jump to in a little bit, but we did want to get on and just talk about um, my new release here, Strategy for Success, which is really kind of the bread and butter of this show. And but first, I wanted to introduce my esteemed co-host Corey Knott. If you don't mind introducing yourself, Corey, as we normally do, and
Sure. Hey everyone,
telling us a little bit about what you do. Yeah.
I am Cory Knott, and I am a business coach with Take Wing Coaching, and I focus especially on business partnerships. And yeah, glad to be here. Thanks, David.
Okay, great. And a lot of these concepts we're going over today, I was saying Corey knows as well or better than I do. So I thought he's a great resource um, to learning about these ideas. And we're going to talk more about those. I just want to do a kind of a lightning round, really about a quick synopsis about what this book is, a strategy for success. And it can be a little bit hard to get your head around it because it's really a whole lifestyle or a lifetime of ideas go into this over several generations. I'd say going back to Think and Grow Rich was really the first book of its kind with Napoleon Hill, which we did a couple segments on earlier in the year here. So it's really kind of a how to get on your path to achieving your goals. And the book isn't available yet. It is available for pre-sale. I'll put the link. It's going to be out March 1st. So this is really my take and kind of a quick handbook about those ideas, which were advanced over a few generations there by people like Earl Nightingale and Bob Proctor and others, so and then also Cory and Ascentive. So we're gonna, there's a lot of origins. Bob Proctor would always say the best thing about these ideas is they're not, none of them are mine. This is really just, and Cory said the same thing about a lot of the system. He did flight plan, but he's a great curator. So we're going to go through just, that's just a little bit on the context of the book. I wanted to just share the table of contents. This is actually Cory's first time seeing the official book, although he's more than familiar with, a lot of these ideas. So let me just, of course, that copy got hidden from me here when I was trying to bring it up. My Adobe got closed here. See if I can get it up. Um, Use Zoom. Okay, here. I'm gonna oh, share screen and oh, there it is. Okay, so here it is. It's really a handbook. It's 80 pages long, and I just wanted to make it really accessible. And really, this is kind of the um the system I use to kind of get on my path, and draws on a number of different ideas. I'd say Cory is really an expert in, over 50% of the material, and he's familiar with like more than that. But really, the first half of the book, Cory is really an expert in. That quantum leap term kind of came from me, but it's really just a fancy term for goals. So I'll just briefly say what each of these is, and um, then we'll just, I think we'll just get into it individually because We're trying to make this quick on time. So, but do reach out to us if you have any questions about this. This is really kind of part one of a two-part look at this before the book's release. And here's the intro, and then I just get right into the book. So you can just see each chapter is short and has some exercises on how to tease out those ideas. So, first, I just wanted to, I'm not even going to read from this book about quantum leap. I'm just going to kind of give just a quick explanation about what each of these terms are. And I was telling Corey, this is really our bread and butter for this show. I mean, the show's name is Quantum Leap. And, I'm actually going to ask Corey just uh, what a quantum leap means to you, Corey, and if you don't mind just telling us your conception of this and um, what why somebody might be interested in. I think one acknowledging that there might be a quantum leap out there for them and how to start thinking about that.
Yeah, a lot of people. I think sometimes people get kind of stuck on the idea that they just got to do what they're doing, and it's a question of what do you really want to create. Sit back and say, what do I truly want to create, and then it's good to have a template for what are the steps to take to make that happen. And so that's, I think, the idea behind your book is to have the steps to make that happen and to feel motivated, inspired to do it. I think it'd be especially difficult for solo business owners to have that push. So we create this information, this playbook, as it were, for ourselves that moves us forward. And it's not just saying it's the goal; it's all the reasons behind the goal and the values that you put into it.
Yeah, and a lot of it isn't even in the book about some key things like this thing about frequency and vibration, which we've talked about. How do you that's basically staying motivated. How do you kind of get on the path and stay there, stay in that frequency for success. And that's what this book is about. And I say a quantum leap on this show, which we really try to teach. That might be a 10 or 20% increase in revenues, over a couple years. Or the difference in feeling good about your business versus just treading water or not making it. So, quantum leap's different for everyone. And I think it's an exciting concept. I explain it in that chapter, and there's a whole book that's even better explained than the detail I go into it, called Quantum Leap. And so you can take a look at that, and I talk about all the sourcing in there. The second chapter is really the significance of purpose. And I don't know, Corey, if this is something I really learned from you about purpose. I hadn't really it, it's not in a lot of the early books. This chapter came from your ideas in large part, and it was inspired by what you teach. So if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about purpose, what the significance is and how to start thinking about your purpose, and also how that maybe applies to your business and life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us don't give a whole lot of thought to it, or we do. And so the point of having a purpose is to be inspired. What is it that really is motivating me, not just to do this thing I'm talking about, but what is my purpose in life or my purpose in my business? And that comes from the why, the looking forward and looking back, and what is it that you feel that will be the result of your action, not so much for you, but for what you want it to be. Whether it's your community, the world, the people around you, it doesn't really matter. And sometimes we get caught up in other people's purposes, so it's really good to understand what is our own.
Yeah, and I'd say a lot of this stuff I feel like can be hard for some people to just do in a book form. That I find a lot of it's best to have somebody to work on it with you, and that's where you and Gail have been so good with me. I know we've talked about it on the show, and you've done that for a lot of people. This is really a specialty of yours, how to get thinking about that purpose. And a lot of people I know in our network have said, "Hey, I did a couple of sessions with Corey on purpose and my why, and then they're redoing their whole marketing plan, and a lot, it kind of gets the ball rolling on a lot of good things for your business. So I will put the links if you want to reach out to Corey about that. And eventually I want to turn this into a little bit of a ebook, and it's going to have kind of online version. So we'll put some more content from you guys about how to do this more in depth. I'm just in this book, it's kind of like a quick description of it and a couple of my thoughts about exercises that, a number of them are directly sourced to you. So we'll call that out as we, as we get into dive into some of this more deeply, maybe next year or later this year. The next section, another specialty of yours, is goal setting. So, there's a few different ways to approach goal setting, and there's like different types of goals, but could you maybe just introduce this concept and tell us a little bit about what the goals are, why they're important, and then maybe the different ways to approach this, or if maybe there's one preferred way when you're getting started. Yeah.
Sure. I think goals are what we aim for, and I don't think that there's any. I like there's plenty of coaches will say, well, this is the goal, the way to do goals. This is the way to do goals, and consultants have that, and some companies push it on their employees. But ultimately, the main thing with goals is that they're realistic and they are measurable, which means they have to be specific. So there's other things that you can add into. There's a whole SMART goal system. I like Ivan Meisner's ideas of, what is my goal, what is my stretch goal, and what is my, can't fail goal. And so sometimes that's a fun way to do things. I think everybody kind of has their own system that works for them. But ultimately, and a lot of people just don't feel like they're goal oriented. And my particular style is not to be expressly goal oriented, but our minds are goal oriented. There is no thought that we have that doesn't have a goal attached to it. So when we say, "Oh, I'm not goal oriented," that's actually not true. We are designed to be goal oriented. We're always moving forward with a purpose to do something. We are rational beings, and so there's a rational goal to every action or thought. And so when I realized that, it was like, oh well, then I'll just make bigger goals, right? What is it that all these things and thoughts and actions will add up to? And and then find a system that works for me, and then we do that for our clients too.
Yeah,
But it's
very.
important to have the goal. I mean, if you don't have the goal, then you're just it's easy to get sidetracked by so many shiny objects.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just say it's good to have some guidance there too, because I think a lot of when you get in here and it's kind of like getting under the hood of a car and you see what's
Right.
actually how to construct that goal so it's going to be useful to you. I think a lot of people have a goal. Maybe it's too vague. Maybe it's actually not a great enough goal. That's what they really want. So there's I let I lay out that criteria about goals in this chapter, but that's another thing to where it's really important to talk about it with somebody, what's behind it. Maybe after doing that work on it, like a month or two later, the goal is different, what you actually want when you kind of cut through maybe some of the challenges of getting there. But
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I've been learning a little bit about lately, and I think has been really helpful, is leading versus lagging indicators. So one of the challenges people have with goals is they set, say, a number or something that they're going to accomplish, and we start looking back, like, did I get there, and how many? Like a great one is a weight loss goal, right? And like I want to be 200 pounds by X date, and at first it can be a very kind of slow process, right? You've got to put things into place to make it happen: exercise, diet, routines, and all that. And sometimes you get like a simple result, and then you get stuck, right? There's a plateau, they call it. And so the idea behind, leading indicator or lagging indicators is we're kind of looking back, like, oh my God, it just nothing's happening. But the leading indicators are more predictive. So if every day you follow your plan, you you're looking at that as a leading indicator, like that's a success. It's not the loss or the weight changes that are the success. It is actually the indicators, the leading indicators, your daily routine that you're following that becomes a success. And that's a good way to look at goals as well. It tends to be much more successful for people.
Yeah, yeah, well put. And um,
But
you
that's
know,
it's even over easy to get overwhelmed there because there can be so many leading indicators. So you kind of got to create a scoreboard that is simple and easy to stick to.
okay, very good. And then another key thing here really is vision, the next chapter. And um, Cora's done a lot of work on this. He has some great short videos I might put on this page too. But really, what is this concept of vision? I almost feel like this is one of the most important things in the whole book when you get, it's so interrelated with goals and purpose, but really vision's kind of, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about vision, why it's important, and how to get started there.
Well, vision is the reason for everything, well, I won't say it's the reason for everything, right? That's more of the purpose, but the vision is a view of the outcome, what it is that the future will look like when it's achieved, and whether that's usually 2 to 3 years out. So goals typically are closer in, right? They're easier to look at the time, whereas vision is more about the overall result of all these activities and what it is that you want. I guess it's like an articulated dream, and it's told in the present so that it feels like it's present, so that as we move forward, we're actually kind of living in the vision versus stuck in the past or the present, which many of us are. And so it's being able to be future oriented, but doing all the things in the present that you need to do to make it happen. It's like one big affirmation, is the way I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And Corey actually has a lot of these hands-on materials on his website in Flight Plan, which is kind of low introductory rate. That there are even more detailed exercises than are in this book. This is kind of a quick introduction, but you actually have kind of how to do a vision, in your website Lyft. So I'm gonna put the link to your website, but do check out Lyft if you want to get going right now on vision. Check out his flight plan modules in there. And this is really kind of intended to be a companion. We talk about this stuff so much on the show. I thought it'd be great to write it down and get it out there more broadly, and then we can kind of build on it, and you also have to just kind of live it and work with people on it. So next week we're going to go over core values, which Corey is the one who took me through core values as well. We have some other key modules we're going to just introduce, and then we'll kind of wrap up for my release of this short handbook on March 1st. And it is going to be kind of a living, breathing um, system on the website, and I'm going to put some companion materials that Corey does and some videos in there as well. So more to come on that, but I just want to get this book out. I have the audio book done too, but I have to get that out. And I heard this beautiful anecdote the other day from was reading about a colleague, and it's called the invisible string. And it kind of got me thinking about this analogy that there's it was actually there's a movie coming out where two strangers have this same frequency, and they don't know each other, but they're kind of connected through this invisible string, so to speak. And I think about that with ideas. It made me think about, I was listening to Earl Nightingale talking about Emerson and Thoreau, that so many of these ideas are connected with different people, have these kind of same ideas in different forms. And once you kind of develop this frequency, you attract a lot of that stuff to you. You start to see it everywhere. And I think that's some of the beauty of, our networks too, like why we know the people we do, Corey, and how we're, connect, for example, Ivan Meisner, or, they're just such purveyors of some of these ideas. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I didn't describe that well enough and is pretty long-winded. But if you have any closing thoughts on some of this material and the handbook, feel free to make them, Corey. Otherwise, we'll wrap
No,
up
it's
so we
always
get to
always
our
good to
meeting.
review this stuff. We actually have a couple of classes coming up too with our flight plan and with core values, and we do them very short, so it's really just more of an overview, kind of what you're doing here. And it's always good to have all this kind of information available. And I think the core values one is going to be coming up in April, and we'll do a flight plan one next month. But in April, I've got a big group that wants to do connection, and core values is one of the ways I think we find it's easier for people to connect and co-create and collaborate. So that's the goal there.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you get a chance, record some of that, and
We
maybe we'll
will.
put out a highlight or whatever for Quantum Leap, and
All right.
we'll talk about it more on the air too and promote that. And I'd love to put the links. We'll talk about that at a future session when you get the details. So, well, very good. Well, thanks for going over this with me, Corey. You're actually one of the first people who's seen the kind of final copy there. So I look forward to getting more input as we go forward and talking about it more on the show, and hopefully putting out another edition with some more material. Or it's actually part of a trilogy as we've talked about. So this is the first piece. And um thanks a lot. And folks, we'll see everybody next week. We're skipping the AI segment today because we had a meeting that came up. So we're gonna have that segment in a couple weeks time. So
Good. Thanks, David.
thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.